Picture this. It's the year 1950. The engines roar. The first Formula One World Championship race is about to begin at Silverstone. No seatbelts, no carbon fiber, no telemetry. Just raw courage, manual gears, and public roads turned into death traps. Out of this organized chaos rises one man, Juan Manuel Fangio. He's not just fast, he's calculated, elegant, ruthless, and over the next 8 years he would do what no one dared to dream. Win 5 world championships with 4 different teams. A feat so absurd, it wouldn't be matched for nearly half a century. Let that sink in. Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, Maserati, Mercedes. Fangio didn't just join winning teams. He made them win. And in a sport where loyalty today is rewarded with decade-long contracts, Fangio's fluid dominance feels like myth. Now here's the stat that makes everything else tremble. Fangio's career win rate? 46.15%. Out of 52 starts, he won 24. To this day, that is the highest win percentage in F1 history. By comparison, Lewis Hamilton, 35.7%, Max Verstappen, 33.2%, and Michael Schumacher, 29.6%. The more races you enter, the harder it gets. Fangio didn't just win, he owned his era. Need proof? Rewind to the 1957 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Fangio loses nearly a minute from a disastrous pit stop. Instead of giving up, he starts hunting down Hawthorne and Collins, breaking the lap record 10 times in a row. Not just breaking, it's shattering. He wins the race by 3 seconds. The grandstands erupt. Rivals shake their heads. Even now, that drive is considered the single greatest comeback in Formula One history. Right beside Fangio's shadow stood a man many still call the greatest to never touch the crown, Stirling Moss. Moss won 16 races, a number that to this day remains the highest by any driver without a championship title. His record is as heartbreaking as it is heroic, but Moss wasn't defined by failure. He was defined by moments. Take the 1961 Monaco Grand Prix. Moss drove a Lotus 18, underpowered, fragile, mid-tier at best, against Ferrari's dominant V6 cars. On a narrow street circuit with no runoff, no safety barriers, and no margin for error, Moss held off 3 faster Ferraris for 100 laps. He won by just over 3 seconds. That's like today's AlphaTauri winning Monaco from pole. It doesn't happen. Back then, it was witchcraft on wheels. If Fangio was king and Moss the noble knight, Jim Clark was the racing god. His 1963 season remains a monument to untouchable dominance. 7 wins out of 10 races, 6 pole positions, and led 71% of all laps that season. Let's pause there. 71%. That's total psychological warfare. And he didn't have engineers whispering in his ear. No radio, no tire sensors. His car, the Lotus 25, was groundbreaking with its monocoque chassis, but also held together with rivets, duct tape, and sheer hope. What Verstappen did in 2023 with 19 wins in 22 races is incredible, but Clark did his magic in a 10-race calendar. That level of dominance in such a short span? Pure racing artistry. Clark also holds a 34.7% career win rate, only slightly behind Fangio. But remember, Clark also raced IndyCar, touring cars, and even tried NASCAR. He was a universal talent in a time when drivers weren't athletes. They were gladiators. You hear Mr. Monaco and think Ayrton Senna, right? But long before that, there was Graham Hill, who dominated the streets of Monte Carlo before sim racing, and downforce became tools of precision. Hill's record? 5 Monaco wins between 1963 and 1969. He did it across multiple teams in cars that were barely more stable than a bicycle in a wind tunnel. His 1965 win stands out, leading by over 46 seconds, lapping half the field, taming the infamously tricky BRM P261 in conditions that would have put today's entire grid in the wall. And here's the kicker. Back then, drivers partied the night before. No simulators, no throttle maps, just guts and gears. And if you think multitasking was invented in the hybrid era, let's talk about Sir Jack Brabham, the only man to win a world championship in a car he built himself. That's right. In 1966, Brabham drove the Repco Brabham BT19, which he developed in his garage, ran with his own team, and took to the top of the world. He was also 40 years old at the time, a stat that stood unchallenged until Fernando Alonso came knocking 5 decades later. Today, every team has over 1,000 staff. Jack had a wrench and a vision. This era was more than numbers, more than trophies. Between the 1950s and early 1970s, more than 20 drivers lost their lives. They raced without seatbelts, without fuel cells, without medical cars. Every time they hit the track, they knew death might be waiting at the next corner. And yet, they raced, they won. They defined this sport. Every unbreakable record from this era wasn't just written in ink. It was etched in scars, crashes, and the kind of heroism that today feels almost mythical. By the late 80s, Formula One wasn't just dangerous, it was divine. Cars got faster, rivalries got nastier, technology evolved, and the men who drove these monsters, they became legends. You didn't just watch races anymore, you watched history being rewritten in real time. Enter the rivalry that split the F1 universe like a civil war, Alain Prost versus Ayrton Senna. One was all precision, the other all passion. Together they defined a golden era. Prost was the chess grandmaster of racing. In 1993, he led 798 laps in just 16 races, nearly 50% of all laps that year. That record held for over 2 decades, but while Prost calculated his victories, Senna seized them like a storm. 65 pole positions in just 161 starts. That's a pole rate of over 40%, dwarfing even modern legends like Hamilton, 30%, or Verstappen, 18%. And then came the lap that made gods look slow, Donington, 1993, rain falling, visibility 0. Senna starts 5th. By turn 1, he's 2nd. By the end of lap 1, he's in the lead. He would go on to win by over a minute in a car many considered midfield. That first lap, still hailed as the greatest single lap in Formula One history. Not just wet weather driving, wet weather wizardry. Senna didn't just conquer circuits, he claimed Monaco, 6 victories, including 5 in a row from 1989 to 1993. His 1988 pole lap, 1.4 seconds faster than Prost, in equal machinery. In F1 terms, that's not a gap, it's a galaxy. Monaco is now a simulator-driven, data-intensive chess match. But Senna? He danced through those corners with divine instinct. You remove the barriers, and he still wouldn't touch a wall. Then came the 1990s. F1 got serious. Enter Michael Schumacher, the most feared competitor in the sport's history. From 1994 to 2004, Schumacher went from a rising star to a myth in motion. His 7 world championships tied Fangio, but unlike Fangio, he built his legacy inside the hardest crucible, Ferrari. Ferrari hadn't won a championship in 21 years before Schumacher showed up. He didn't just win, he transformed them, and then he dominated. From 2000 to 2004, Schumacher won 5 consecutive titles. To this day, no one else has done that. Not Hamilton, not Vettel, not Verstappen. Then came 2002, perfection incarnate. 17 races, 11 wins, podium in every single race, title clinched in July with 6 rounds to spare. Nobody else has finished every race on the podium since. Not even in the hybrid era, because that kind of consistency is inhuman. Let's talk qualifying. The Ferrari F310 in 1996 was, by all accounts, a disaster. But at Monaco, Schumacher turned it into a rocket. His pole lap was 0.6 seconds faster than second place. Commentators said the car looked like it was falling apart, and yet Schumacher drove it as if it were a missile on rails. You don't just win races with great cars, you set records when you can win with trash. In 1992, Nigel Mansell drove the legendary Williams FW14B, the most technologically advanced car of its time. But it wasn't just the car, it was Mansell's raw aggression. He claimed 14 pole positions in 16 races. That's an 87.5% pole rate. And even with 20-plus race calendars today, that record still stands. Modern drivers chase stats. Mansell hunted them like prey. Fast forward to 2018. The hybrid era is in full swing. Regulations are tight, speeds are monitored, and then Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman, breaks the all-time fastest lap in F1 history. At Monza, he clocks 263.588 kilometers per hour, 163.755 miles per hour, average speed. In an era designed to limit speed, Kimi punched a hole through history. Why is it untouchable? 2026 power units will slow cars down. DRS zones and slipstream dynamics are being revised. Kimi's lap was a rare cocktail of low fuel, perfect weather, and raw timing. Nobody's come close since. Before Verstappen made headlines, there was Sebastian Vettel. From 2010 to 2013, he won 4 straight world championships. His 2013 season, untouchable. 9 wins in a row, 13 wins total in the season. Untouched for a decade, even Mercedes' 2014 to 2016 juggernaut couldn't string 9 straight. Vettel also held the title of youngest world champion ever, 23 years, 134 days, until Verstappen stole it. But his streak of 4 straight titles in the V8 era, still unchallenged. Here's the thing, Schumacher, Senna, Prost, Mansell, Vettel, they didn't just break records, They weaponized them. They used them to dominate entire seasons, crush rival spirits, and force engineers, fans, and competitors to admit there's no stopping this guy. These records were born in eras of evolving tech, rising safety standards, and increasingly global fan bases. They've endured because they were created by unrepeatable conditions, by drivers whose hunger turned entire seasons into highlight reels. But even those towering feats would soon collide with something no one expected: a hybrid revolution and a statistical monster in a silver suit. It started quietly in 2014. No fanfare, no fireworks, just a new engine formula and a team wearing silver. But what followed was not just dominance. It was engineering tyranny. Mercedes-AMG Petronas didn't just win, they rewrote how Formula One would function. Between 2014 and 2021, they won 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships, a streak that broke Ferrari's previous record of 6 and likely won't be touched for decades. And leading the charge, a man whose legacy turned from boy wonder to statistical god. Lewis Hamilton, once criticized for emotion and inconsistency, evolved into the most statistically dominant driver the sport has ever seen. Let's talk numbers. 103 Grand Prix wins, the most in history. 104 pole positions, the highest ever. 7 world championships tied with Schumacher, but in arguably the most competitive era ever. 48 consecutive points finishes, a consistency streak untouched by time or luck. Hamilton's pole lap in Australia 2018 left the grid in disbelief, 0.664 seconds faster than second place. His win in Turkey 2020, from 6th on the grid in monsoon-like conditions, sealed his 7th title, arguably the greatest modern wet weather masterclass. And unlike Schumacher, Hamilton didn't dominate with refueling tactics or Bridgestone tire superiority. He did it in an era where every move was dissected by data, GPS overlays, and AI-fed telemetry. But dynasties crumble, and from the ashes of Mercedes' empire, another beast rose. Max Verstappen didn't just enter Formula One, he tore it apart. At 18 years and 228 days, he won the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix on his debut with Red Bull, becoming the youngest race winner in history. And that was just the beginning. In 2023, Verstappen delivered a season that broke the simulation. 19 wins in 22 races, 86.36% win rate, the highest in a full season. 21 podiums, 1,000 plus laps led, demolishing Alain Prost's 798 lap record. From 1993, Verstappen didn't just dominate, he made F1 feel scripted. Every race, every qualifying, every opening lap felt inevitable. And here's the twist. Due to super license restrictions, it's impossible for another 17-year-old to debut again, meaning Max's youngest everything legacy is locked forever. Even in the age of DRS zones and ERS boosts, one stat still stands from the Iceman. Kimi Raikkonen's lap at Monza 2018, averaging 263.588 kilometers per hour, remains the fastest in Formula One history. And with upcoming 2026 regulation changes set to slow the cars down, this stat isn't just safe, it's cemented. Cuomo, as usual, didn't care, but the record does. Before Verstappen rewrote the script, there was another symphony of dominance. Sebastian Vettel, in 2013, won 9 consecutive races from Belgium to Brazil. No one before or since, not Hamilton, not Schumacher, has strung together a winning streak like that. In a sport with pit stop failures, safety cars, tire degradation, and engine penalties, 9 wins in a row is absurd. Even Max's 2023 season with 19 wins didn't break the consecutive win streak. Vettel also holds the record for most wins in a season by a driver under 26. His title run from 2010 to 2013 remains unmatched in the V8 era. The 2016 Mercedes W07 won 19 out of 21 races, achieving a 90.47% win rate. The team finished 1-2 8 times, and if not for the infamous Hamilton-Rosberg clashes in Spain and Austria, it could have been 100%. That car was a rocket ship. That season, untouchable. And speaking of Rosberg, he won the title, then retired immediately. Walk-off championship? Only man to do it. While most drivers age out by 35, Fernando Alonso decided to play a different game. 381+ race starts oldest podium finisher since the 70s. 21 years between his first and most recent win. In an era where rookies train in simulators since childhood, Alonso is still out-qualifying teammates half his age. I'll stop when I'm slow. And he never got slow. Daniel Ricciardo avenged his 2016 heartbreak with a flawless Monaco 2018 win, even with engine failure. George Russell gained positions on lap 1 for 24 consecutive races. These aren't just numbers, they're symbols of driver grit in an era ruled by perfection. Let's be clear, Most records are meant to be broken, but some? Fangio's 46.15% win rate, Brabham's DIY championship, Clark's 71% laps led in a season, Red Bull's 1.82 seconds pit stop, Vettel's 9 straight wins, Hamilton's 100-plus wins, Verstappen's youngest debut and win. These are more than stats. They're chapters of immortality. They happened under impossible circumstances, in eras that will never return, by drivers who felt like they belonged to myth. Formula One has always been more than racing. It's a fight against time, against history, against physics itself. And these records, they're the proof that some humans, when given a machine and a chance, can do the impossible. Whether it was Fangio taming Nürburgring in '57, Senna dancing through rain at Donington, Schumacher building an empire, or Verstappen breaking the sport's logic, every unbreakable record tells the same story. Perfection isn't a moment, it's a mindset. And while new heroes rise and new tech evolves, some numbers, some streaks, and some drives, they aren't meant to be matched. They're meant to inspire. Because Formula One isn't just about who crosses the finish line first, it's about who leaves a mark deep enough that time itself can't erase it.